Eagles hour number 3. Please hit the like button. You guys have been awesome today. Congratulations to you. By the way, congratulations to you. Your football team took all the concerns away. Health, check. That did not look like a hurt football team Saturday night. Check. Quarterback, health, check. We actually saw some different creative play calling on defense. They pressed more. They brought more blitzes. They did more exotic things. Check. I'll tell you something. What I maybe have to do is when it comes to Gannon, I just have to look at it and go like this. Sills, and I'm talking to myself here, guys. So bear with me on this. Not every D coordinator has to be Jim Johnson or has to be Buddy Ryan. Two of my favorite coordinators of all time. And so is Monty Kiffin. Those are some of my favorite. Okay? Some of my favorite. Okay? He just likes to keep everything in front of him. You know what I mean? It's just not aggressive. But he was aggressive against New York. Again, some of the stuff that I said in the first hour, Monty Kiffin, I love Monty Kiffin, one of my favorites of all time. The Eagles, they just look great in all phases. Here's some of my takeaways from the game on Saturday. I didn't believe in the Giants. However, I did say that I thought the game would be 30-28, and I thought it would be a close one. But remember, I kept saying this on Friday to you. Do you really think New York's going to go into the link and do exactly what they did in Minneapolis? I found that hard to believe. Do we really believe Daniel Jones is that guy? Remember, people kept asking me, and I kept going like this. I want to see him do it again. And he couldn't. And it was there for all to see. And see, watch this. Was that a shitty Giants team like week 14? Yes. But what the Eagles did, they reminded them who they really are. You see, the Giants came out of that Minnesota game. They came out of that Minnesota game thinking they were somebody else. And you know what the Eagles did? They reminded them of who they are. No, you're not that team because Minnesota's frauds and we're going to crush you. And they did. That's called not playing down to your competition. That's what they did. You're going to play championship football against us. You're going to get a championship effort. And the Eagles showed them what a championship level effort looks like. That's why the Giants quit in the fourth quarter. They realized they didn't have the weapons to do it. And they knew. Even Brian Dable on the sideline started realizing and he started understanding, okay, we don't have the horses for this. Okay? Pietro goes, you act surprised. Well, because the question marks I just said, if you weren't listening. Health, Lane, the quarterback, we had to see it all. Act surprised, and you making it sound like you've played great ball in the last month. You haven't. They checked all of that, and they put it all in the win column. Was I surprised? Yes. Because they hadn't shown it. Yes. They haven't looked like they did on Saturday night, probably since that Giants game in week 14. That's all. And remember, I said the only reason that some of these teams are coming back to the Eagles is because of health. All year long, I have said this is the deepest roster in the NFL. And those of you that have been with me here know I have said that. I have said Howie has put together the deepest roster. You all know that there's people that come in and out of here and they say that that's not, I've said that. And some of that talent got hurt. Lane was special. Lane playing through all that like that. Okay? Lane playing like that. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to get to all the games here in a minute. We're going to get to the games here in a second. On the flip side, Eagles defense this year against 21-point outside zone 49ers, bread and butter, also 3.2. Good statistic. Look at Philly D. I'd never heard you say that once. When some of you guys tell him that, Philly D, that I said at the beginning of the year that the Philadelphia Eagles had the deepest roster of any team in the National Football League. Those of you that have been here, help out Philly D that. So that he thinks it's just all hating. That's not true. That's not true. Okay? You had the deepest. You've now turned it into the most talented. Okay? The most talented. And I do think the difference is going to be on Sunday, the quarterback. Jalen looked great. 154 yards. It didn't feel like it was 354 yards. Didn't it feel like it felt like, it just felt like 354 yards. They were such timely pass. There's such, you know what? Is this fair? And again, this goes back to looking at stats for what they are. Okay, watch this. Jalen's 154 yards throwing the ball were so important to the game and loosening up the secondary. Like, they're not empty calorie yards. Like, every yard matters. You know how sometimes you look at a stat line and you go, guy threw for 350 yards, and he's got 350 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns, 2 turnovers. I'm going to tell you something about Josh Allen. Josh Allen is starting to look like Brett Favre a little bit to me. And I don't like Brett Favre. Okay? I think Brett Favre turned the ball over too much. As spectacular as Brett Favre was, Brett Favre cost himself at least 3 additional Super Bowls because of the turnovers. When Favre left the NFL, he was the all-time leading passer for touchdown passes, but he was also the all-time leading passer for interceptions. I don't want that distinction. Okay? Okay? I don't want that distinction. I could throw the most touchdowns and have the most interceptions. I don't want that on my resume. So when I'm starting to see Brett Favre in Buffalo. A little bit reckless with the ball, man. He's just a little too reckless. And you turn the ball over like that, and you have low percentage passes. He had such low percentage passes in that game. Jalen's stats were like important. 154 yards, like I said, felt like 354. Haason Reddick was a bitch. Whew, man. Wreaking havoc, hitting the quarterback. Daniel Jones ran away from 4 additional sacks that he could have. He could have had 6 sacks in that game. This guy's got 19 sacks in 18 ball games. I don't know, man. I mean, Michael Parsons, Jesus. He's really stepped his game up. I couldn't have, and I said this. I think Haason Reddick is probably the best acquisition in free agency that the Eagles have had since Terrell Owens. Okay? Can't stop the pass. No, I said he can't tackle and cover backs. He still can't. But that's not what he's brought in for. That's not what he's brought in for. O-line, grades. O-line, A. Running game, A. Quarterback, A. Wide receivers, B+. Didn't need them much, but just for a few plays. Coaching. Outside of high school, Nick, very good. On the defensive side, coaching, A. Pressured them, kept them bottled up, kept them contained. D-line was in everybody's face. Linebacking core did a great job filling gaps. You know what else really the Eagles did exceptional at, I thought? Their lane integrity was outstanding. Nobody got pushed out of their lane. They did a great job at staying in their lanes. Was really great. A lot of lane integrity in what they were able to do. Rushing the passer, they were hitting him, keeping him contained. Okay? They really did, man. Really did a nice job there with that. Philiopolis goes, Howie Roseman is the best GM in the NFL. Well, let's put this out there. Howie gets 2 Super Bowl wins in 5 years. That's quite a legacy. And I would turn around and say, what other general manager in the NFL that's a sole-standing general manager and not a coach? You know, because some coaches like Belichick had dual roles. 85 goes, Purdy needs to play perfect 49er. CBs will struggle. Other GMs are afraid to do deals with him now. Philiopolis, the only reason Howie Roseman could do deals, though, is because the quarterback is the lowest paid guy. You keep making sure that you have to put that into the dynamic here. He's got an open checkbook because the quarterback's not being paid. That will change. Okay? That will totally change. I'm trying to think. Like, would I put Howie Roseman in the same category as Ozzie Newsome? Man, Ozzie drafted Ed Reed and Suggs and Ray Lewis and Jonathan Ogden and Criminy. Made deals for Dion and Rod Woodson and Jamal Lewis, Lamar Jackson, the tight end. I mean, Ozzie, in my opinion, Ozzie Newsome is the best freestanding GM, not coach related, not a head coach and GM. I don't think there's a better general manager in the last 30 years than Ozzie Newsome. But Howie, if he gets 2 Super Bowl wins in 5 years, kind of puts himself in a different category here. Compare records over time. Yeah, what do you think? You think he's Ozzie Newsome? Howie will have done it twice in 5 years with different starting quarterbacks and different coaching staffs. That means you'd have to go back to like the Washington Redskins and what they did by winning those 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. But they had Bobby Beathard. And Bobby Beathard was a brilliant general manager. And he won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. Okay? And Beathard was the GM of those Washington teams. So I don't believe that Howie's Bobby Beathard. I mean, Bobby Beathard's been to 5 Super Bowls. So I don't think he's there. I don't believe Howie's better than Ozzie. Ozzie's a better drafter. And Ozzie's made, and he hired John Harbaugh. And he hired Brian Billick. Okay? I mean, he hired Brian Billick. He hired John Harbaugh. I don't know, man. Some good ball players that he's had go through there. So is Howie definitely top 3? We can agree on that. You know what? And by the way, Philiopolis, Ozzy's not really in that role anymore. It's more DaCosta now in that role. So you take Howie, you take Ozzy out of that. Okay. You take Ozzy out of that, but he's still got major influence in the organization. So if I'm looking around the room here, would I take Howie over Mickey Loomis in New Orleans? Yes. Would I take him over John Schneider? John Schneider's been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1. This will be Howie's 3rd Super Bowl, right? If they get to the Super Bowl, is this his 3rd? Or was that Joe Banner and Andy? I think that's Joe Banner and Andy, wasn't it? The 04 team was Joe Banner, wasn't it? I don't think that was Howie's. I don't think that was Howie as the GM. Yeah, the first one was Joe Banner and Andy. Yeah. So it's 2 if he gets there. I'm trying to think. John Schneider. John Schneider's been to 2. What about Andy? Andy has been to, but Andy's not really the GM, or is he? But again, I'm talking freestanding. I'm not talking coaches. Boy, Howie will have done something that a lot of guys haven't been able to do. And Philiopolis, I think he gets there and say he wins it. He wins 2 titles in 5 years. 2 different coaches, 2 different coaching staffs. Yeah. It's pretty good stuff. And again, what I think he's become a better general manager at, just like I think Doug Peterson's a better coach today than he was in Philly, because he learned not to be a total tool. And maybe so with Howie, not to be a total tool. And how I look at Howie and how he's had success putting the team together, you know how you can see that there's a lot of good people in that front office? Well, when you see guys like Andrew Berry getting jobs, or you see Joe Douglas or Andy Weil is his name, now in Pittsburgh as the assistant general manager, and you see people coming in and cherry picking out of the Eagle front office for big jobs at current. Andy getting that job in Pittsburgh is enormous, because once you're in Pittsburgh, you could be there forever. Okay. It's a great place if you're like in training wheels when it comes to being a general manager.